What's up, everyone, and welcome to Clear Talk. We are back here at the fire pit. Okay, so fire pit time. We are going to talk about how the state of the world and everything that is going on, and the way we live, like our whole existence, and in the problems with that, um, are everyone's fault. They're everyone's fault. Um, when I think and look at everything going on, all the things that we talk about on this channel, and I'm watching the current state of how everybody lives. Okay, I like the idea of this. Uh, Sorry, I had an ant crawling up my leg. This idea of like we live in this first world country of luxury and ease of access to things. This you know, uh, privilege of having. Even though even with our own society, there's like haves and have-nots, right? But when you look at the rest of the world, and there's other countries certainly like us as well, but then there's those countries that we consider, or some consider like the third world nations or whatever, that just don't have things. They live in like find it hard for us to even imagine living in the way that they live, like whether or not it's decidedly done by them, or um, or under oppression or control, the reason why they live that way or whatever the case. And then like the most horrible places that we could think of at the moment, where they're literally treated like lower than human, like scum or like animals, um, kind of like Gaza, how Israel treats Palestinians, and all of this dynamic, and the leaderships that are all across the world. I mean, again, I'm not talking about just in the United States, even though it's easy to talk about that because it's close to home. It's what we've lived with our whole life, or what I've lived with my whole life. But and it's like it's all our fault. It's the small world bubbles, the echo chambers, the brainwashing, the allowance of people, the absolute worst of people, to somehow gain control over us. And this is something that goes back. This is basically like a curse of humanity, going back not just decades, centuries, but like millennial. Like this is a long running problem with society that has truly never been corrected or solved, or redirectioned, or like and it I mean, surely going back at some point, you can argue that, well, it was just sheer ignorance. It was just the unknown, before science and more new aged understanding, the age of acknowledgement, or whatever, or technology, industry kind of things, like the progression of human, understanding and mentality. Like a lot of that, just because then it was strictly about survival. I mean, there was no other way to live, was under survival, power, control, and those who had it, those who didn't. You were under the whelms of who, like that system that somewhere along the line developed. But the crazy part is, even after all of this, after all of that happening, the history and us knowing the problems with that, and us coming through, the age of acknowledgement or science, a better understanding. I mean, there's still such a grasping hold of society, where of haves and have-nots, of those in power, the worst of the worst people becoming in power and control, and and greed, wealth, and the exact opposite of what I would prefer to see the world become. This, which some people would call like a utopia, I guess, because it's just um, so far out of grasp, or it feels so far out of grasp that you just couldn't ever imagine it because of the existence of the world right now, like the way, and again, after all that we know, and understand, it still has not changed. Nothing has really truly changed. Yes, we live in a better time and period of the existence of the world, where we have better abilities to gain access or give access to resources and things like that. But and so, like, to some degree, there's a more larger part of the world that, while they still are considered have-nots, they're still probably better conditioned now than, say, hundreds of years ago, or even or 1,000 years ago, or whatever. But nonetheless, the conditions are still there, though. It's like, even though we have all of this, and we've created the condition where, if by chance you gain some wealth and ability to better yourself, then great. But there's a continued system globally of oppression, of the very few having everything they want and need, and then some, and holding everybody else down. And that's becoming more and more evident. Like, and while I'm sitting here in a life that is by no means bad. Like, even though I don't, have a lot of money, I, live very, like, minimal for the most part. Even though I have, I'm not like, I definitely take use of resources, technology, electricity, all the luxuries that we have technologically advanced for ourselves. Certainly, yeah. I'm sitting here on a smartphone. I'm use social media. I'm scouring videos, and I enjoy entertainment, video games, movies. I eat, and whatever I want to, if I want to, and I can. I'm certainly not living under any bombardment. I'm not living under fear or anxiety of, at any point, any day, I can die. I don't have that, at least. So I generally don't have anything to complain about, personally. But that doesn't mean that I just completely escape the rest of the world and pretend like there aren't problems in the rest of the world. Pretend like these extremities don't exist. Pretend like it doesn't matter if... But so many people do. So many, and there are a lot of people that feel like me and try their best to, push back. And while that's great, but it's still our fault. It's still my fault. It's still my fault that I haven't done this sooner. That I don't do it more. And and yes, all the bad people, the horrible people, yes, it's their fault. They're greedy, they're hatred, they're just egregious nature and characteristics and practices. They are horrible. I mean, the leaderships all across the world, the Trumps, the Netanyahus, the Putins, the Kim Jong-uns, all of these people that are in leaderships and controlling and oppressing and hating on people and causing chaos or creating conditions where we have to constantly be in fear, or the reason why all these nations have nukes, or the fear of nukes, and this whole, all this, it's just nonsense. It's all complete nonsense that we have created as this system, allowing all these people to have this control and have this. But and while it's easy to blame all them and to hate on them, and deservingly so, I mean, MAGA, for being so foolish and ignorant and trusting and believing and apologizing and protecting and defending and worshiping and everything, somebody like Donald Trump. It's easy to throw that shit at them, and you are a fucking moron, and I literally cannot stand you that you voted for this guy and you are allowing for this bullshit to happen. It's easy to hate on them, right? But everybody's to blame. I'm to blame. Even the people that do not agree, we are also to blame. Because I truly believe, looking out at the world, I truly believe that we outnumber those that have a reasonable understanding of life, a reasonable understanding of the way society could live, a reasonable understanding that these leaders that are in power do not deserve to be in power, do not deserve to have control. They are the problem. Or no, they are a problem. And a large problem. But just as much as all these people that ignorantly and willfully and against their own interests support and allow to and purposefully put them in that position, we also allowed that to happen. Because we weren't willing enough and strong enough to go out there and make sure it didn't happen. I mean, just look at the United States, for instance, when it comes to Donald Trump. Donald Trump acts like he had a mandate. He acted like he had a mandate that, the majority of the United States voted him into office. But that's not the case. The majority of the United States, the majority of the voting population of the United States didn't even fucking vote. I've pointed this before. There was a higher percentage of people that didn't even vote than voted for either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris in 2024. And that's the problem. Even though everybody sits back and we argue about over each other and how much it's each other's fault that anything fucking happens, the reason why some of these people are in power and the reason why the chaos happens is because of everybody's fault. Those that willfully accept it and put it into place, and those who do push back and oppose, because and those that just sit silently in the background and do nothing. And I think that's the reason why these type of people have come into power. Or at least it's a good reason why. And while there are different circumstances, in different places, in different countries, in different, cultures or different societies or whatever, I mean, it's either out of willful ignorance or fear, or just complete apolitical, not giving a fuck. Is the reason why these people have gotten into power, and the reason why society stays the way it does. Is, again, the loudest people in the room are always the biggest assholes, the most hateful people, because they have that arrogance about them to make themselves heard, make themselves seen, make themselves, influence those. And it's the ones that are not willing. It's the ones that are not willing. And again, I understand. I've said this the other day. I understand the wisdom in not being that loud person. But is there wisdom in continuously allowing those loud people to gain power and control and influence, to maintain that power, control, and influence? Is that wisdom, or is that just foolishness? And I'm meaning that genuinely. Like it. And I feel like true wisdom is understanding and knowing when to speak and when to not, when to listen and when to actually push back. Like reading the room and understanding what is needed in the moment. I feel like that's true wisdom, not just sitting back and just not saying a fucking word. I feel like that's just a cop-out. That's like a half-ass wisdom. And I feel like society has been doing a lot of half-ass wisdom. We need, I know that was a long pause. If we really truly want change, if we truly want like global change, like it needs to be global. It needs to be everybody speaking out. And while I think there is a growing sentiment of that, I think there is an uprising and like a condition within society at large growing of like unsettling thought, unsettling existence in what we're seeing right now. I think we should be ashamed at this point. All of society, I mean globally, all of society should be ashamed at this point that we have sat back this long, that we have sat here, that we have allowed this long, a completely new millennial here, and we still are allowing like barbaric thoughts and barbaric practices, barbaric like in tendencies and acceptance to continue. We should be embarrassed that we still at this date somehow have not learned enough from history. And why it seems that we never actually truly learn from history. That's the reason why history ultimately, while it might not, as they say, repeat itself, but it's, you know, it follows a rhythm. It rhymes, right? It always comes back around, just in a different face, in a different way. But it's ultimately, you know, it is a repeat of itself. Once you get far enough from it that people don't truly understand and truly know what that history felt like, it's not until they feel it again that they recognize it, and then it goes again. There's a shift, but then we get so far from it again, and people just don't, like, even though the history's there, it's that whole, you know, you don't feel it till you feel it. You don't know it until you feel it. You're not moved or changed by it until you feel it. And that's a condition that we need to change in society. That's a condition that we need to educate and teach generations coming, that you need to be, if anything, you need to learn from history more than anything else, and make sure that history does not repeat itself. Because that's what we've done. We've allowed history to repeat itself over and over and over and over and over again. Because we never truly learn from it. Those that are in power and that gain power and gain control and greedy and all that, they learn from it. They learn the worst things so that they can use it to manipulate and recreate that history. That's the craziest thing. The ones that actually learn from history are the bad people. The good people don't truly learn, because we don't push back enough to make sure that it doesn't repeat itself. They want it to repeat itself. But those that don't want history to repeat itself, we don't try hard enough. And that again is why it's everybody's fault. And we all need to face the facts. face reality. Because if we truly want change, we truly want something different, we truly want an improvement, a shift, a zeitgeist-like shift in society, we've got to recognize that we cannot repeat things. We have to actually learn genuinely and make actions, be proactive and not reactive. Because once you're reactive, it's too late. You're already repeating it. We need to educate and be more proactive and not allowing these things. Then maybe there will be a more aggressive and progressive push to, you know, in voting and in our processes or whatever, to make sure that people don't get in, certain people don't get in power. Or we would change the system to allow for you know, for more opportunity for people that have better intentions to be in power. Because clearly what we're doing, if you haven't noticed, isn't working. It's insanity. It's insanity. The entire world is living in insanity. Continuously repeating something over and over and over again, thinking that the next time it's just going to be different. But it doesn't. Because we're not actually ever changing anything. We're allowing the same shit to happen over and over again. It's all our fault. And don't get me wrong. There needs to be pushback and like effective critique. It's a nice way to put it. On those who need it. Like the worst of the worst. Don't get me wrong. They need it. They need to be pushed back to the point that they recognize that they are, that their ideology, that their reason for life and their desire for existence of humanity is minority, like is hated, that it is not what the greater world wants. I don't care if it's MAGA. I don't care if it's like the Donald Trumps of the world, rich and wealthy CEOs, the powerful. I don't care. There needs to be some sort of critique from all of society, that we are no longer going to allow or accept this type of system, that this type of, like, something needs to change or we will literally make it hell for you. The greed, the selfishness, the hatred, all of that, like, it needs to be like front page news all the time. We do not accept this. We will not allow it. We will do everything in our power to bring you down. And I understand that brings us to some sort of a boundary. That brings us to a boundary of violence versus non-violence, right? And I am all like 100% non-violent. And I truly think that this could happen with no violence. But I also can recognize that there might be nuance in certain areas where some people, especially if needed because of violence being brought on them to try to maintain the control and power, I completely understand defensive violence being necessary and needed. And I would not be upset, and I would completely understand if that was the case. Again, I'm not a violent person, and I don't really like violence. Is not the answer. It's not the initiative answer. It's not the first answer. But when you do straight on full pushback, those that are in power, those that are greedy and in control, the desperation of them to hold that control is going to be met, is going to present itself more than likely in violence. And so, even though I, again, think that everything we should try to do, everything society at large should try to do, should be nonviolent, if met with violence, I completely understand defending yourself in that with violence. And it's hard to say that. And while I wish, those that have this power and greed, or have this, selfishness and everything, like, while I wish that they would just, understand that their opinions and thoughts and like their desire for society is not going to be accepted, and just be like, or realize that it's wrong and that there could be a better way, and for them to just like, nicely accept it or whatever, or just, like be, or understand, you would love for them to be like, you know what, fuck, maybe you're right. Maybe I don't need to be so greedy. Maybe I can be caring and loving. Maybe maybe I am really an asshole, and I, should try to be better. I might not ever be perfect, but, or I might not, be as compassionate as this person, but at least I can find some sort of kindness in my heart. Some sort of willingness to actually lift up society and not just lift myself up. You would love for that to happen, but I feel like I've gotten way off subject here, but maybe, that's what you get here. That's what you get here on this channel, is somebody just gets out here and, or gets on camera and doesn't really have too much laid out. I mean, every now and then I'll have a little bit of something laid out, but I'm really just spitballing. I'm very much spitballing in this video. I'm just talking. And the crazy thing is, I get on camera. I thought of this like days ago, It was like, I want to do a video. Like, all these thoughts and things were going through my head, and I was like super emotional in that moment. And then I get in front of the camera right now, and I'm like, what was I even thinking about then? And I don't really remember. And I should have wrote it down, but that's just not me. But we're all to blame. I oftentimes have to come back to my point, but we all are to blame, and we need to recognize it, and we need to start changing stuff. Again, I feel like understanding wisdom is, or being wise, is knowing when to speak and when to not speak. Recognizing the room. Knowing when to be loud and when not to be loud. I think it's careless and ignorant and arrogant to only be one or the other. To only be loud and obnoxious and hateful and greedy and selfish, but also to be silent. Neither extreme is wisdom. I'm learning that wisdom is finding the balance. Some moments need to be met with quiet and silence and reserve, and some moments need to be met with full-on pressure and pushback and criticism. And we are quite literally living in history right now in a point where there needs to be the highest level of criticism. The absolute highest level of criticism. We're quite literally watching fascism, Nazi-like tendencies take over our society. Take over and just actions going unabated. Egregious actions. Acceptance of those actions. That, that when last seen, there was a full-on pushback and criticism of those actions, trials, and repercussions, consequences for those actions, and a drive in that moment to not let that happen again. But here we are once again, disconnected from those times, generations later. And again, while we have that history right here in front of us, more accessible than ever before, that's even the more crazy thing. I could almost even argue back then it was understood because information was just not that easily accessible. And any time before now, really. You could be like, I get it, because they didn't understand, they didn't know. Very few people really knew what was going on. And then once they did find out, it was probably too late. Or I can get that, but we live in the most in your face, at your fingertips, information and knowledge age of understanding than we've ever been. And there's so much of society just sitting back and watching. Just fucking watching it happen. How How can you sit back and watch it happen? And while I'm not saying it's necessary to try to do some action, like physical action, but why is there not more? But like, why is more people not doing everything that they possibly can to say enough is enough and no is, like, this cannot happen? What? Are we so, like, do we feel so safe in our bubbles that we're too afraid to say something? We look at all this egregious things happening and we go, I mean, yeah, that's bad and I don't like it, and if I were there, I would certainly be doing something about it, or trying to, or doing whatever I could to survive. I don't even know how, I can't even imagine. But I mean, I'm not there and I'm here and nothing's going on here, so sorry? Is society that detached? Is society that unemotional? Is society that, like, I'm talking about at large, have we become that disconnected from ourselves, from the greater community, from the greater humanity that should be at our core? That even when we can't make these excuses, we can't make excuses of not knowing or not understanding, or not, like, we have no excuse at this point. We quite literally have no excuse at this point, except for just not willing, not caring, lack of compassion or empathy. That we're that disconnected. That's what our society has become, that disconnected. And again, it's all our fault. We've quite literally desensitized everybody to this normality that was become, and we've dehumanized humanity so much. I'm starting to wonder if we've dehumanized it more than ever in human, because I mean, it's always been to some degree dehumanized. You know, the idea that, oh, death just happens and people just die, and what does it matter if people die? Like, people have been killed for no fucking reason all throughout history of humanity, but but at this point that we have not learned or understood or leveled up humanity to the point to a point where we genuinely actually have compassion and care and love and, like, want to truly enhance humanity as a whole, and as an understanding, like, preserve the preservation of humanity, and not just like humanity as a whole, but like every single human being individually, actually caring about life, caring about each individual's existence. That still has not, like, that's where we fall. That's where we have fallen and failed as a nation, as a society, as a civilization. Is that even at this point we have not lifted up society and humanity to the degree that we quite literally care about each individual person. There's too much selfishness that still remains in society. The survival instinct, the fight or flight kind of thing, there's too much of that still existing. And I guess it's because I can only assume And even in saying this, I feel like I'm just apologizing it away, but I can only assume that it's because of the systems that we have created and still are in place. The leaderships that are in place. The allowance for the worst people in society to be elevated to positions of power. That's still the problem, and that can only say that that's partly why we still just are in this survival mode. Like, everybody is constantly being placed in this survival mode when we could do better, but we have to remove these people from power to do so. I know I'm all over the place with this video. Fuck it. I'm just like, you're probably not even watching at this point, but shit. And hell, if you are still watching, comment. Comment. What do you want? What should I have you comment? Comment fire pit. And there's a part of me that feels like a lot of people feel this way. Like, you know, underneath it all, but they don't really know what to do or say or what it, you know, if anything could be done or said, or like what and I get that. I felt that at times. And me sitting here right in front of this camera probably isn't gonna do shit. Because I'm a fucking nobody here in rural ass Mississippi, USA. Nobody truly gives a fuck about me. Most of the people around this area don't really even like me, I don't think. I don't even feel that half of my family actually likes me. I don't even really have friends. But I've accepted that because I feel like what I feel, what I speak about, is more important. More important than their feelings. More important than their opinion. More important than their dislike of my opinion. Because I'm genuinely just trying to put something out in the world that maybe will add, even if it's a little bit of positivity, a little bit of a spark, a little bit of something. You know, it's like plant the seed and maybe it'll grow, you know. Although I'm starting to question my gardening skills and ability. I'm not a very good seed planter, I guess. But I do have some seeds that worked and are growing and are producing. And I can only hope that maybe one of these seeds in one of these videos plants and grows, even if it's, and produces, even if it's just a little bit. I could die happy knowing that I hail to a moral, like, idea of society where I wanted everybody to act, like, genuinely wanted everybody to exist in happiness. Not just a certain type of race or certain elite individual that thinks they're supreme over everybody, or just myself and my family or something. Like, I genuinely wanted everybody to have the opportunity to exist and live in happiness. I mean, what's this fucking life for if you're not having everybody live in fucking happiness? I don't care who you are. Genuinely, I don't care. Because I feel if everybody genuinely was able to live in happiness, the world would overall be more happy, there would be more positivity, and maybe there'd be less hatred, less war, less fighting, less arguing, less, stress, and less, like, and we would the sky would be, the sky would truly be the limit on what our society could succeed at. There's too much individualism. I'm really going off the mark here, I know, from this original idea of this video, I think. But maybe it's connected? Fuck, I don't know. This video's extremely longer than I planned, and that's most of my videos, but okay. I'm gonna end this out. Thank you for joining me. Again, comment fire pit. Thank you for joining me, and let me know what you think. Let me know how you're feeling. Let me know if you feel the same way. Let me know if what I've said here affects you at all. Not that that actually really matters. I don't need that validation or anything, but because I've been doing this with a lack of validation for a long time now. Anyways, thank you for joining me. Love you. Hope that you're doing, hope that you are genuinely well, and best wishes for your life, wherever you are, whoever you are, and that you are finding happiness, or can find happiness, or at least one day will find happiness. If we as a society can actually turn the tide, can actually, like, really truly bring change, truly learn from our history to not repeat it again. Till next time, peace, clear talk. I'm out.